PZA for Wednesday, March 18th. Could we get a roll call, please? Two. Sorry.
Mr. Featherling?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Tholen? Mr. Payton?
Here.
Ms. Peters? Mr. Fairfield?
Here.
Mr. Snipes? Mr. Swanson?
Here.
Mr. Dennell?
Present.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Present.
Mr. Kirkstrom?
Present.
Ms. Bryan? Mr. Collins? Ms. Hudson?
Present.
Mr. Alexander Hildebrand? Mr. Gowler?
Here.
Mr. Wheeler?
Present.
Mr. Seroy? We have a quorum.
Thank you. We don't have any public comment that I've been notified of. Is there anyone here for public comment today? Okay. All right, then we'll move on to that. We get a motion to approve the minutes. They all received them in email. Mr. Kirkster back there, we get it first. Get a second from Colton. Mr. Eckhoff. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried on that one, right? Okay, Mr. Skimmerhorn is here to give us a rundown of the building report. Could we get a motion to approve that? Okay. Oh, Mr. Swanson here. Okay. Mr. Donnell, second. Okay, so we got a first and a second.
You should have in your packet the monthly building report for April 2022. We had one new home, issued 69 permits with a valuation of $2.1 million and brought in revenue of $24,189. Comparable to April of 2021, we were almost equal to the revenue brought in last year at that same month, about a $20 difference.
Okay, so included in it, okay, we got the solar panel farm in there, the permits for the new the solar farms we got going. Okay, anyone have any questions? No? Okay, we get a, all in favor say aye. Aye, motion carries, thank you. Opposed, same sign, sorry. Motion carries. Okay, next up we have a zoning case. ZBA case 22-02 is a request for rezoning from A1 agricultural in the district to A2 agricultural estates district on a parcel generally situated in section 14 of Norton Township. The petitioners are Donna and Merlin Weift, property owners, and Adrian Weift, applicant. Anyone here for that one, Del?
Yeah, I'll take care of that.
Okay.
Kelly, can you put the map on the screen? This is a request to rezone 5.85 acres from a 55-acre farm that has the existing farmhouse on it. The 5.85 acres is outlined in red. Aiden Wideff would like to purchase the old farmstead from his grandparents, Donna and Merlin Wideff, so that he can live there and keep the old farmstead in the family. This is located in Norton Township at 15523 West 3000 South Road near Buckingham. It was eligible initially for a farmstead exemption, but when they started plotting it out on the map, in order to get to the maximum of 5 acres for a farmstead, it started, basically they had to come up there and see where the driveway angles off. They had to remove that from the parcel and let that go with the farm. They decided that they'd rather have it squared off, and which is what is requiring the rezoning to A2 because it doesn't meet the farmstead exemption qualifications. Public hearing was held on this on May 9th. Zoning board recommends approval 6-0, and there were no objectors present.
Okay, does anyone have any questions about the case? We all received our information. Could get a motion to approve then? Mr. Snipes? Okay, Mr. Miller? Mr. Miller, second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, motion carries. Opposed, same sign. It carried, everybody voted yes. Okay, Del, we have anything under old business?
I've got some, I think it would be new business actually.
Okay, I got a
Few things.
Andy mentioned a new business about the broadband. We get two, so we might have two. Is it the same one?
No. Mark Walcott has tendered his resignation from the Regional Planning Commission, so I just wanted to announce that.
Okay, so we have an opening there.
11 opening on the RPC.
Is it right away available, or is he gonna stay for a while?
From what I understand, it was immediate, so.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the hearing date for the large solar farm in Essex is being pushed back to July. I know I had announced June 6th for that.
July, okay.
The applicant has requested that we hold off till July. I do not have a date yet. We're waiting on room availability.
Okay.
So I'll announce when that will be just as soon as I know.
And the public notice will state the location of the meeting is in a different spot?
Yeah, we actually did not send out the public notices. Would have had to go out today. So those never got sent, so it'll be all changed, yes.
Okay. Okay. Under new business, we had something that, did Chad want to mention something about new business? Or Ben, did you? Go ahead, Chad.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the end of the 2021 calendar year, back in December, we were alerted that there was a program through the state of Illinois, I think it was through the Department of Economic Commerce and Economic Opportunity, called Accelerate Illinois. And communities were invited to apply, and if chosen, then they would go through a series of meetings. And at the end of that series of meetings, the community would have a set of plans and have a lot of information put together in order to implement some broadband expansion in the rural communities. Ben is here, and he was involved in that application and the process, so I'll let him expand on that.
Okay, Mr. Wilson. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And a big thank you to Chad and his team. And I can tell you that when we were postulating the grant, we had a couple meetings with the Farm Bureau and Bill Coleman from the Benton Institute, and they're going to be leading this project with us. And Chad was instrumental in helping us through that. And really, I know that sometimes the committee members don't get recognized for their efforts, but a big thank you to Chad for helping us out with this grant application. So we were successful for the strategic broadband planning program called Accelerate. And so over the next 14, 15 weeks here, we're going to be meeting once a week with this team to talk about strategic short-term and long-term planning surrounding broadband. This is about trying to find we have some identified gaps in the rural areas, so that we're not really going to be focusing on the urbanized area as much, but to look at the entire county. And we've got some partners within our community. We'll be working with, obviously, existing provider partners like Comcast and Mediacom, some of the more rural providers. I know that some of the statewide broadband teams have been tapped on these, so groups like iFiber will be weighing in on projects like this. So it's about identifying the gap, putting together a strategy to see exactly how we could fill that gap, and then trying to focus in a little bit on what the monetary implications are for that. So I think when we put this together, obviously there's only so many dollars for our budget in a general sense, and you know, if this committee makes recommendations or one of the other committees in the full board approves, maybe some funds would be made available for broadband. But however that pans out, there's not enough money to do all of what we need done. So this effort is to really look at the entire county and see where that best value would be, where a provider partner might be willing to take on some of those activities, so we can kind of look at our broadband needs in a greater sense, making sure that families receive more than that minimum 25 megabits on the down, 3 on the up, because again, as we work through this and we find you got 2 parents at home on a Zoom call and a kid trying to do schooling, 25.3 is not enough. And that was, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, that was plenty sufficient. And in this kind of evolving world we live in, that probably 100 on the download and 10 on the upload is going to be something we really have to focus on. So where maybe previously some of the providers might have said, we offer broadband, it might not be broad enough. And also to remember that in a census tract, if one family, one household receives internet, the broadband provider would say, oh yeah, we offer it to that census tract. That might not be everybody in that census tract. So we really want to identify, and we'll be reaching out to our community. We want to do the broadband surveys. We want to know what the speeds look like in each individual community. So we'll be reaching out to the board members for you to share information with your constituents to say, please take these speed tests, give us this information, because that'll be what allows us to build that appropriate picture of what the broadband needs for Kankakee County are.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Wilson? No? Okay, thanks, Ben. Mr. Snipes.
I do know that the federal government has issued a significant amount of dollars towards this broadband. I also know that the Pembroke area is a recipient of that same amount to basically help. So are we looking at the areas that are outside of those that have already been targeted, or is it just a comprehensive kind of scale for the whole entire county?
So everyone's involved. Yeah, when we talk about unserved or underserved, Pembroke Township, the Village of Hopkins Park received funds through Congresswoman Kelly's office. It's a federal earmark of around $3.2 million that will be administered through the Department of Commerce. That will be part of our conversation, obviously, but so will existing efforts from the providers now that maybe didn't receive federal dollars, but Comcast is putting in new service and upgrading service throughout the county on a regular basis. So is Mediacom. All of those things kind of go into this greater picture. I would say, though, kind of the core for us as we looked at putting this together, who's unserved within our community, and then who's underserved. So. Currently unserved or underserved, but having $3 million in the bank to make you serve, maybe, again, you'll still be part of the conversation, but that won't be that's one of the areas we identify where we can put a check mark next to it from an implementation standpoint to say, while that was a priority need, it's currently being implemented through these funds. Now, they just received the award or the announcement. I don't know how far into the process, the earmark process they are. I don't know if Commerce has received the funds, if they're building their team. I don't know who they're putting together from a provider standpoint, who will be the premier provider, if they'll do a multiple provider scenario. So all of those things will happen. In talking with Matt Schmidt from Connect Illinois, the efforts they're within our group, but we will have a tracked, kind of a tranche for that effort that's not necessarily taking up the time of the entire group. So it's parallel effort or concurrent effort for and then again, I feel like I need to say this. We have targeted areas within our community, and we look at, and sometimes it's easy to say that area needs broadband. I know some of the members of this board have expressed a concern to me that there's more area in the county that have needs for broadband, and that's really why at the staff level we're going to be looking at every piece of Kankakee County that doesn't have the internet it needs. So. We won't be focusing on one area. We'll be focusing on the entire area.
So kind of, all right. I was looking for that because I know if Pembroke has it, I know Moments is kind of right in that nexus and the rural area of Moments, and so they are going. I know they're going to be screaming, "How can we connect?" Or if that's in that area.
I mean, this is Otto, Norton, this is Yellowhead,
right.
This is Essex, this is
Bonville.
This is every township has a need within our community. And that's what we really want to make sure not to just focus on one area because it's maybe the convenient area or because it's got the $3 million grant. So we'll be looking a little broader than that.
Good, thanks.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments under new business done? For any questions about? Oh, okay. Colton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What's the total dollar amount throughout the rest of the county? You said that Pembroke was $3 million. What's the other dollar amount? Or
so this grant is actually just this grant is a direct grant to the Benton Institute, and they're offering us the service essentially. So we'll receive the planning exercise as our grant value. So we'll put our time in, but there's not been earmarked dollars that I'm aware of from Congresswoman Kelly's office for additional federal dollars to the county.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you. In order for us to be able to access other federal dollars passed through the state for broadband, we have to go through this process. We have to know what the what is and what it is as far as the build out of a network or a series of networks for all these unserved and underserved rural areas, from kids that have to they're in the Herscher district, but they're at home, they don't have sufficient internet, so it's hard for them to go to school from home when there's a pandemic, if you will, or people to work from home, or the whole what is it, about a 5% increase in GDP of farmland if you can be connected to broadband on all your equipment. That's what we're talking about. It's not just Hopkins Park, Pembroke Township, it's everybody. That money that just appeared for them was given to I believe, earmarked for something, community development group. It wasn't given to the township. It wasn't given to the village. So we're still trying to figure out how that plays into everything. But people from that organization are part of the county-wide effort. This group is made up of people from all over. Limestone, Mr. Long is part of the group. The township supervisor from Limestone. We have people from all over County West, North, South, East. And we're not focusing on those areas that currently have internet service. We're talking about like in the municipal areas, the build MPO area. Does that make sense?
Yes.
We're focusing on getting it to people. That's why I say we need, at some point, we need to take a look at how we're doing spot zoning in the rural areas, because we could actually be creating a situation where we leave our fire districts and sheriff's police without the ability to respond properly if there's too many people living, because we brought that service to the rural areas. So it's going to take this committee to really think about this
Glue it together.
from a planning sense. I hope that makes sense the way that I put that. We could be encouraging a lack of resources by the way that we have our zoning policy. Does that make, do you agree, Del?
I do, and actually, after we discussed that yesterday, we actually already have that policy. It's in our comprehensive plan.
Yeah, spot zoning is in there.
It says development should be focused into municipalities and rural communities and locations where appropriate infrastructure exists. What we need to do is follow that policy. Okay, so, and we probably could address making some adjustments to it, but that is in our comprehensive plan.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Wilson, I wanted to ask you, is there a map available that you have created that shows us these areas that, you know, so the right people can be known,
Yeah, I'll share the application for the Accelerate program with with the board. It's got a couple applications for unserved and underserved. Again, that's a cautionary tale when we talk about mapping, and so I mean, you're the ones that are talking with your constituents. You're the ones that know exactly where there's not good internet. I mean, I you know, if you do the big map, you're an AT&T customer, or T-Mobile customer, whomever, and it says, well, we've got your area covered, and then you go sit in your living room and you roam on your cell phone and you say, I don't know exactly how this works, but so it's about doing those tests and making sure we have accurate data.
Okay, thank you. Chad, go ahead, Mr. Will. Go ahead, Chad.
One thing to clarify, this is talking about wired broadband, not satellite or anything. So just to clarify that some might have access to satellite internet, but this would be much more affordable and reliable wired broadband.
Okay. So you're talking like a Starlink type thing for satellite feed down without wires, or nobody's looking at that?
Just the opposite.
Just the opposite.
Yeah, this would be a physical
hardwire.
And now whether that be in ground or aerial is something that we'll be discussing with the providers from a cost standpoint. Obviously, as it gets more rocky, it gets more expensive. As you build more, it gets less expensive. I mean, if we plow enough in the ground, we can probably plow it in for $4 a foot, which is pretty cheap. But
there's a lot of foots out there.
Yeah, there are, and so that's the. And that is where targeting specific areas where we can get multiple customers on a line and not have to run 2 miles for a single customer. All of these things will kind of go into that equation.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure we'll be okay, Mr. Snipes.
I'm wondering, I know it's probably a stretch, but I know on the bill with Comcast, we paid, it started out at $5 broadband, and it was supposed to access, you know, build up monies, I guess, for whatever purpose and to accommodate the, I guess, those that were not able to afford. However, that fee has went up to almost $20 on your bill outside of everything else. There's that fee. Is any of those dollars being, would they be contributed into our area as far as Kankakee County is concerned?
So the way that your telco services are billed are regulated either by the FCC or the ICC, depending on what they are. We receive in Illinois a telco excise tax as a corporate jurisdiction, right? So as a county and as municipalities, you can leverage that, and then we I believe receive, and this is probably more of a Mr. McCarty issue, or question. We receive a portion of that tax to the county kind of in our tax rolls. I know that there are some requirements from those agencies and probably, like from an affordability standpoint, but I will tell you in working through the ICC on some other projects, the CLECs, so the people that provide certified local exchange carriers. So this is Comcast. They can't just build at a loss, right? So they can use a portion of that money, maybe that's in the bill that puts in that fund for special projects to offset costs, but they have to be able to return to us as customers, all of the existing customers, a project that doesn't tax the existing system too much for maybe a single or double or few users. And that's why they historically haven't made those investments, because they can't. They're regulated that way. I don't know how much of those funds are put aside from that $20 that's on your bill, but I do know a portion of those excise taxes go to municipalities as in the actual tax roll.
Okay. All right, and then because I'm for the students being able to have access to education, but if they don't have the broadband or the necessary equipment in their particular area, they're at a disservice, which would kind of limit their remote learning in those specific areas, whereas in the areas of the city, they're more apropos to being able to serve that general population. But when the broadband dollars came out, I want them to. I would that they will be geared towards those areas, kind of like first, because I think the greatest need is in those areas where they don't get the benefit that the city or the municipalities would get.
Yeah, there's far greater saturation for existing services in cities, villages, towns. But I kind of want to take a step back when we talk about broadband. This is the electrification of America. This is working off of fuel oil, and the natural gas came to your town, and your town either helped the project or hurt the project. This is critical infrastructure. This isn't just about students getting access to be able to do the remote learning thing. This is just a general necessity for 2022 and the future. So this is, to Chairman Wheeler and Mr. Miller's point, this is helping farmers, this is helping business owners, this is helping everybody do everything in their general lives. So I think each one of those kind of lump into, it would help the students, and we really feel good about that. And there is some disadvantage there, but I think generally there's just a disadvantage from a technology standpoint if you live too far outside of town. And we're trying to level that playing field a little bit by appropriate planning, looking at the best use of funds, and that's really what this exercise is, to kind of see the what and the where and the who of broadband.
So the whole aggregate.
Okay. Mr. Wheeler.
There was just one thing that Ben said I think is important that we remember going through this, because those like Colton and rural areas and Mr. Fairfield and others and Mr. Payton, we're looking in this process for clusters. There may be somebody that's a mile down the road that wouldn't get broadband service because it's outside of where a cluster is, or 2 miles. So the cost benefit to run $30,000 worth of whatever to that house to serve one house, there may be people out that still don't get service out of this. We're trying to get to that 95% rural coverage, or that big number. I hope that makes sense. And then we could build off of that later. But the initial spend, that's where the big federal money's coming from, is for things like that. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, this is not high-speed broadband to everybody's home. And this is certainly not fiber to everyone's home. But this is identifying the core projects to get the most people involved for the best value. That's very important. So that way, when we're looking at funds and saying, well, we need $50 million or $100 million to do the whole county, if you could give us 10, we could spend that 10 in these targeted areas and do a lot of good work and get that rural broadband number way up from a user standpoint. And then, again, if you're 3 miles off the line, we'll have to figure out alternatives going forward for that. And that really is where the satellite dish type service, if you're a very rural user, that's why that exists. And maybe it's Starlink through Elon. Maybe that works. Maybe it's cell service. There are alternatives, but we're talking about broadband that doesn't go out when it rains too hard. That doesn't have issues when it's too windy. I know any of you that have dealt with the satellite television companies. It's like it's the Super Bowl and now it's windy or it's snowing and now I can't watch. And that's the thing we're trying to avoid here. We want reliable broadband internet for the rural customer.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Fairfield.
I was just curious if it's wired wideband, how's this going to assist the farmers in the field?
The ability to broadcast Wi-Fi from their place.
Yeah, that would
true,
be
Chad?
that would be one aspect. Also, with the affordability of precision agriculture and the popularity of precision farming gaining, every tractor has a satellite uplink and monitors exactly where that tractor and combine is. Even the farm field sprayers can have nozzles that turn on one side and shut off the other side based on the data in the field that they've collected on the soil types and soil samples. And when the farmer returns to their farm office with that data card from their tractor, that's one big point where they've got an immense amount of data that they're trying to transmit and upload from their farm office, not necessarily always from their farm tractor. But once they get back to their farm office with all that data, then that's when they want to do a lot of that heavy lifting.
Yeah, and that can also affect like the river, Andy, with the the overflows and things. If they're able to just put it where they need it, we're not just spraying it out there just to spray it out there. So I really think it helps all the way down to the water into the river where we get our drinking water from.
That's a great point. That it not only helps the farmer's bottom line, but it's also great for the environment.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Mr. Snipes, go ahead.
And also with that, because what I was looking at is not so much where the broadband could get to everybody's individual homes out there, but to the libraries that's there, or like here in McDonald's, some of the people that didn't have access at their homes, they were able to go to like McDonald's, which offers the free Wi-Fi, or to some central area in that area, whereas they might be able you might not be able to get out to the mall, but you can get it into one like their little library or area where they could come in and get that free Wi-Fi.
Yeah. I hear stories about people going to McDonald's and sitting in the parking lot with their kids doing their homework in the car, and it's we do have areas in the county where there's houses without electricity, I believe. Dell, if I remember that right, from the couple of zoning board meetings, so where they run generators when they're there on the weekends. So there's still places that don't even have electricity. So not because it's not available, because they don't want to pay to run the line to the house. So it's a lot of dough, a lot of money. So anybody else have anything for new business? I like to see that. Ben, is that something to be updated every month on the agenda, or are you busy every month, or? Because it's something we need to deal with. If you have something that you want to discuss,
I think that we'll, as we work through the process, as we get our feet under us after a couple meetings, I don't mind coming back here and reporting to this committee with kind of what the progress looks like. And then
I heard about this in
we're jumping into different tranches out of that. So as that type of activity comes up, we'll keep the board apprised on what's happening. Just so, and again, we're going to be reaching out to each of you as we need info, and so say. First meeting, we go through an introduction. Second meeting, they say, you know what? Here's the map. Where's the targeted areas? Yeah, we'll be reaching out to individual board members to say your area has a lot of underserved or unserved. Would you distribute this to some of your residents to take the speed test, or would you take survey info for us, or things like that? So we'll be bringing you back quite a few things as we work through this process.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Okay. Anything under, let's see, old business, new business? Okay. We get a motion to adjourn, Mr. Kirkstra. Okay, second by Ms. Hudson. All in favor say aye. Aye.